Before you assume this is about money, status, or the way your face has changed with time, let me gently stop you right there. Because the first thing younger women notice about older men is not what you think. And if you stay with me until the end of this conversation, you may recognize a quiet pattern in your own life that finally makes sense. If this kind of honest, psychologically grounded discussion helps you think more clearly about yourself and your relationships, take a moment now to like the video and subscribe, not because you're supposed to, but because this space is meant for men who value understanding over noise. Now, let's slow this down. When a younger woman first encounters an older man, her nervous system begins scanning long before her conscious mind forms an opinion. This is not about attraction in the superficial sense. It's about safety, coherence, and emotional gravity. She is not asking, "Is he handsome?" She is asking, often unconsciously, "Is he settled inside himself?" What she notices first is your presence, not how loudly you speak, not how confidently you perform, but how anchored you feel when you walk into a room. Do you seem at ease in your own skin, or slightly restless, as if you're still trying to prove something to people who are no longer watching? Many men assume youth is drawn to energy and excitement, but what younger women often notice in older men is emotional pacing, how quickly you react, how calmly you listen, how little you rush to fill silence. Silence to a younger woman can feel either threatening or deeply comforting, and older men who are comfortable with silence communicate something rare, emotional self-trust. She also notices how you relate to her autonomy. Do you seem curious about who she is, or subtly invested in shaping who she should be? Younger women today are exceptionally sensitive to this difference. An older man who respects her internal world without trying to manage it stands out immediately. Another thing she notices, often within minutes, is whether your confidence is earned or defensive. Earned confidence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't lean forward aggressively. It doesn't need to be validated. Defensive confidence, on the other hand, carries a slight tension, a tightness around humor, a need to impress, a subtle fear of being dismissed. And here's something few men are told. Younger women are often less forgiving of emotional incongruence than women your own age. If your words say one thing but your emotional tone says another, she feels it instantly, not as judgment, but as information. This is why some older men feel unexpectedly dismissed by younger women without understanding why. Nothing went wrong. She simply sensed something unresolved, and that brings us to the deeper truth we'll explore next. Because what she notices first is only the surface. What keeps her attention or quietly pushes her away has very little to do with age at all. Once the first impression settles, something more subtle begins to happen. Younger women don't just observe older men, they feel into them. And what they're sensing now is not presence, but emotional history. Not the details of your past, but how much of it you're still carrying. An older man who has metabolized his experiences feels different from one who has merely accumulated them. Younger women are remarkably attuned to this distinction. They notice whether your past relationships sound like chapters that shaped you or wounds that still speak for you. When you talk about life, do your stories feel reflective or rehearsed? Do they carry insight or a quiet bitterness disguised as wisdom? This matters more than most men realize. A younger woman often isn't afraid of your age. She's attentive to whether your emotional narrative has an endpoint or whether it's looping. She notices how you respond to disappointment, not just big disappointments, but small ones. A delayed message, a changed plan, a moment where things don't go your way. These moments reveal your emotional posture. Are you adaptable or rigid? Curious or resentful? Grounded or quietly entitled? And here's something important. Younger women often feel a subtle responsibility imbalance with older men. They are watching for signs that they might be asked, emotionally, to compensate for something unfinished, to soothe regret, to restore lost youth, to reassure a bruised sense of relevance. An older man who unconsciously leans on her admiration to feel alive again creates pressure she can't always name, but can always feel. What stands out instead is emotional completion. A man who has grieved what needed grieving, who has made peace with roads not taken, who enjoys connection but does not need it to repair him. This kind of man feels spacious to be around. He doesn't crowd her future with his past. Younger women also notice how you relate to time. Do you speak about aging with quiet acceptance or subtle panic? Do you compete with younger men or appreciate them without comparison? Competition signals fear. Appreciation signals integration. And perhaps most quietly of all, she notices whether you seem genuinely interested in growth or merely preservation. Growth feels alive. Preservation feels brittle. A man who is still learning about himself, about people, about life, communicates vitality without effort. This is why some older men feel deeply attractive to younger women without understanding why. It's not charisma, it's not strategy, it's the absence of emotional gravity pulling backward. In the next part of our conversation, we'll explore the quality that younger women often interpret as masculine maturity and why it has nothing to do with dominance and everything to do with emotional containment. When younger women describe feeling drawn to an older man, they rarely use the language men expect. They don't say he was impressive or powerful or commanding. They say things like, "I felt calm around him," or "he didn't rush me," or "I could breathe." These words point to a psychological quality that is often misunderstood: emotional containment. Emotional containment is not control, it's not emotional distance, and it's certainly not emotional suppression. It's the ability to experience feeling without leaking it onto others. Younger women notice very quickly whether an older man can hold his inner world without requiring someone else to manage it for him. This shows up in how you respond when she expresses uncertainty. Do you try to fix it? Do you minimize it? Or can you sit with it without becoming uncomfortable? Many men confuse helpfulness with containment, but they are not the same. Containment says, your feelings can exist here without needing to be resolved immediately. This quality creates a sense of safety that younger women often don't find in their peers. Younger men may be energetic and ambitious, but they are still learning how to regulate their emotional responses. An older man who has learned to stay steady during emotional complexity stands out, not as superior, but as settled. She also notices whether your boundaries are clear and calm. Boundaries are not walls, they are definitions. A man with emotional containment doesn't overextend himself to be liked, nor does he withdraw to avoid discomfort. He knows where he ends and where another begins. This creates trust. There's another layer here that many men overlook. Younger women are listening for emotional leadership, not authority. Emotional leadership means you can name what's happening without dramatizing it. You can acknowledge tension without escalating it. You can take responsibility without self-flagellation. This is deeply attractive because it reduces chaos. It tells her that conflict doesn't have to become catastrophe, that uncertainty doesn't require urgency, that emotions can move without flooding the room. And here's a quiet truth. Emotional containment is often forged through loss, through failure, through moments when life didn't negotiate. Men who tried to outrun these moments often feel hollow later. Men who allowed themselves to be shaped by them carry a gravity that younger women recognize immediately. This is why looks fade quickly in importance. Physical attraction opens the door, but emotional containment determines whether the room feels livable. In the next part, we'll explore something even more surprising: how younger women interpret your relationship with your own masculinity and why ease matters more than intensity. One of the most misunderstood dynamics between younger women and older men has nothing to do with attraction and everything to do with how masculinity is inhabited. Younger women are not looking for intensified masculinity. They are paying attention to ease within it. They notice whether your masculinity feels natural or performed. A man who is at ease with himself does not need to signal strength constantly. He doesn't emphasize how capable he is, how much he's achieved, or how little he needs anyone. That kind of signaling actually reads as effort. Younger women are remarkably sensitive to effort where authenticity should be. What stands out instead is a man who is comfortable occupying space without defending it, who doesn't shrink when he's not the most interesting person in the room, who doesn't dominate conversations to remain relevant. This kind of masculinity feels breathable. It doesn't demand attention, it allows connection. Younger women also notice how you relate to vulnerability, not whether you display it openly, but whether you respect it when it appears. Do you become uncomfortable when emotions surface, or can you stay present without turning away or making light of it? A man who doesn't flinch at emotional depth communicates maturity more clearly than any declaration of confidence ever could. There's also something subtle in how you speak about women in general. Younger women listen closely to this, not for perfection, but for tone. Do your words carry resentment, generalization, or quiet blame? Or do they reflect differentiation, respect, and personal accountability? Even casual comments reveal whether your masculinity has been shaped by reflection or by reaction. Another key signal is how you handle power without exploiting it. Age often brings experience, resources, and authority. Younger women are acutely aware of the imbalance this can create. They are watching to see whether you use your position to create safety or obligation, whether your guidance feels optional or subtly controlling. Masculine ease also shows up in your relationship with uncertainty. A man who needs to define everything quickly often feels rigid. A man who can allow things to unfold without anxiety communicates confidence in life itself. This doesn't mean passivity, it means trust. And perhaps most importantly, younger women notice whether you seem complete without them, not emotionally closed, but emotionally whole. A man who wants connection rather than needs it creates space for genuine desire. A man who needs connection often creates pressure without realizing it. This is why intensity is often mistaken for attraction and then fades. Ease endures. Ease. In the next part of our conversation, we'll talk about the quiet behavior younger women notice when they imagine a future and how your relationship with responsibility shapes whether they see you as grounding or constraining. When younger women begin to imagine a future, even hypothetically, they pay close attention to how an older man relates to responsibility. Not ambition, not productivity, but ownership. Ownership of choices, patterns, and consequences. They notice whether you speak about your life as something that happened to you or something you participated in creating. This distinction is profound. A man who frames himself as a passive recipient of fate, bad luck, or other people's decisions can feel heavy to move forward with. Not because he failed, but because he hasn't integrated agency. Responsibility, in this sense, is not about perfection. It's about coherence. Younger women are listening for whether your life makes internal sense to you, whether you can say, "This was my part," without collapsing into shame or defensiveness. That ability signals emotional adulthood. They also observe how you manage commitments. Do you overpromise and underdeliver? Do you avoid commitment entirely to preserve freedom? Or do you choose carefully and follow through calmly? Reliability is deeply grounding, especially in a world that feels increasingly unstable to younger generations. There's something else they notice quietly, how you respond when you are needed. Do you become resentful? Do you withdraw? Or do you show up without keeping score? A man who offers support without using it as leverage communicates security. A man who later weaponizes his effort communicates conditional care. Younger women are also sensitive to how you carry responsibility without burdening others with it. Some men wear responsibility like armor, heavy and loud. Others carry it like posture, quiet, aligned, and functional. The latter feels safe to build alongside. They notice whether your structure creates freedom or restriction. Structure that is rigid feels confining. Structure that is flexible feels supportive. This applies not just to schedules or plans, but to emotional expectations. Can you adapt when life shifts? Or do you cling to how things should be? And here's an important truth many men miss. Younger women are not afraid of seriousness. They are wary of heaviness. Seriousness feels purposeful. Heaviness feels unresolved. A man who can hold responsibility without making it feel oppressive becomes a stabilizing presence rather than an anchor dragging behind. This is often where attraction deepens or quietly dissolves, because responsibility reveals whether you are oriented toward life or bracing against it. In the next part, we'll explore the internal quality younger women sense when they feel respected rather than evaluated, and why curiosity, not judgment, is one of the most underestimated forms of attraction. One of the quietest yet most decisive moments in how younger women experience older men happens when they feel the difference between being understood and being assessed. This distinction is subtle but powerful, and once felt, it cannot be unfelt. Younger women notice very quickly whether your attention feels curious or comparative, whether you are meeting them where they are or measuring them against an internal standard of maturity, femininity, intelligence, or readiness. Even when unspoken, evaluation carries a weight. Curiosity carries openness. A man who listens to understand creates space. A man who listens to categorize creates tension. Curiosity shows up in how you ask questions. Are your questions invitations or are they tests? Do they allow complexity or are they designed to reach a conclusion? Younger women are especially sensitive to this because many have grown up being analyzed, advised, or corrected. An older man who does not rush to interpret them feels rare. They also notice how you respond when they disagree with you, not aggressively, but confidently. Do you become dismissive? Do you subtly intellectualize to regain dominance? Or can you stay engaged without needing to win? A man who can hold difference without threat communicates inner stability. There's something deeply regulating about being with someone who doesn't need agreement to feel secure. Younger women are also watching for emotional humility. This doesn't mean self-doubt. It means recognizing that wisdom does not eliminate blind spots. A man who can say, "I may be wrong," without losing his center demonstrates strength that doesn't rely on certainty. Another layer here is how you respond to change. Younger women live in a rapidly shifting world. Culturally, emotionally, technologically. They notice whether you are rigid in your worldview or flexible without being ungrounded. Flexibility signals adaptability. Rigidity signals fragility. They are also paying attention to whether your guidance feels like an offering or an imposition. Advice that respects autonomy lands very differently from advice that assumes authority. The difference is tone, timing, and consent. Perhaps most importantly, younger women notice whether you seem genuinely interested in who they are becoming, not who they currently are in relation to you. Do you encourage expansion, or do you subtly prefer them static and predictable? Growth-oriented curiosity feels supportive. Possessive curiosity feels constraining. This is where respect is felt viscerally, not through compliments, but through orientation. When a man orients toward her inner world rather than her utility, something relaxes, something opens, and that brings us to the final insight, the one I asked you to stay for, because what younger women notice first is not age, looks, or status. It's something quieter and far more revealing. What younger women notice first about older men is not appearance, not resources, and not even confidence. It is emotional self-sufficiency, and this is often sensed within moments, long before words have meaning. Emotional self-sufficiency does not mean emotional isolation. It means you are not looking to be completed, rescued, or restored by someone younger than you. You are already in relationship with your own life. Younger women feel this as a kind of relief. There is no unspoken job offer, no expectation that they will revive your sense of purpose, soften your regrets, or make time stand still. When those expectations are absent, genuine connection becomes possible. This is why some older men feel instantly grounding to younger women. Their nervous system is not reaching outward for regulation. It is stable on its own. Presence becomes an offering, not a request. She notices how you spend your energy when no one is watching, whether your life feels full or merely occupied, whether you seem engaged with meaning or distracted by activity. A full life does not compete with connection, it enriches it. She also notices how you relate to loneliness, not whether you avoid it, but whether you've learned from it. Men who have befriended solitude tend to bring depth without demand. Men who fear solitude often bring urgency without intention. This is not about perfection. Younger women are not looking for flawless men. They are sensitive to resolution, to whether you have made peace with who you are, where you've been, and where you are going, without needing someone else to validate it. And here's the quiet truth many men never hear. Younger women are not seeking fathers, saviors, or teachers. They are seeking equals across difference, emotional equals, psychological equals, humans who stand firmly in their own life and invite another to walk alongside, not behind, not ahead. If there is one thing to reflect on after this conversation, let it be this. The most noticeable quality is not what you project outward, but what you no longer ask others to carry for you. And if this reflection stayed with you, if it named something you felt but never had language for, then you're exactly the kind of man this space was created for.